Okay, so just a few more points that I wanted to bring out of the discussions, because the discussions are getting a lot more complex. People are opening up a lot more. I think people are telling more personal stories that are really helping to educate each other. So that is awesome. Like, I mean, seriously, the last couple of weeks, especially the week 9 discussion, I think really showed how far a lot of people have come in the class in terms of being able to open up to each other and to help educate each other and make the class better for each other. So keep up the good work there. Really outstanding. One thing that I do want people to keep looking at is when you make generalizations, make sure you're backing up things with facts and a clear understanding of the theoretical readings. Watch out for things in the media and things that other people on the discussion board might say, like things that are actually opposite of what is true, right? So you'll hear people talking about, well, violence is up. There's so much violence in the world or in our country, but the statistics actually show that the opposite is happening. Also, watch out for talk about the abuse of the welfare system. I looked at some stats and I found that most people, or most statistics suggest that between around 1 to 3% of public assistance is used fraudulently. And so it's something to keep in mind as you're moving forward, thinking about how we should address this problem of structural injustice. Should we shut programs down because there is some fraud in them at a low degree? So that was just a side note. The next thing that I wanted to talk about was I think it would be amazing if we could have a discussion about this stuff in person, right? There's so much good stuff coming out on a number of the discussion boards, and I just wanted to point out a few of those things, particularly on the week 9 discussion about labels and ableism. There were some things that came up about the idea of free speech, the ideas of political correctness, and then the idea of the tone of how something is used. There were discussions about kind of the complexity of language and its power. And some of the things that came out that I thought people said that were really effective, right? Speak openly without being malicious, right? How can we speak openly? How can we speak honestly without being malicious? And then how can we listen without being malicious? I think one of the problems right now with the idea of political correctness is that some people have taken it so far that they're just overly offended and want to correct people all the time, particularly people who maybe don't even intend any malicious attitude. They just don't know certain things. So I think it's really important for us to be open to both listening to people, but also both speaking to people, right? We need to be able to say things in honest ways without getting backlash, but we also need to be conscious of what we say. And so I think that was the original goal of political correctness, was to get people to be a little bit more sensitive about what they were saying and think about what they were saying and learn about what they were saying prior to saying it. So this idea of political correctness is very complex, and unfortunately the good idea behind political correctness became somewhat abused, and now it has been turned into something that people complain about as being a really bad thing. And truthfully, political correctness is probably a good thing, as long as it doesn't become something that you're just trying to punish somebody or scold somebody else for, right? If you're just scolding someone because they don't say the right thing, then you're missing the point, right? Because the original idea of political correctness was to try to communicate in ways that were not offensive to people, right? So keep that in mind. So watch out for the dangers of the hypersensitivity to political correctness, but also watch out for people who try to dismiss political correctness as something being complete BS, because it's not. Something that one of your classmates said that I thought was particularly interesting was that words take on new and kind of horrible power when they are, this is the quote, I love this, drenched in superiority, right? So if things are condescending or people are being jerks to each other, that's when words become negatively powerful. There were also some other really interesting comments about invisible disabilities, and how some people disbelieve that they exist, right? That or that dismissal of someone else's struggles. And I think we can take that idea that popped out a lot. People were talking about it numerous times, saying, you know, sometimes people just dismiss PTSD or dismiss my experiences with abuse or dismiss the things that I've had to deal with, saying, oh, just deal with it, you can figure it out. And I think that taking that forward and applying it to every single type of oppressive situation we can look at is the way to go, right? It's hard to accurately tell, like as a white person right now, I can't go up to a black person and say, you don't know what you're talking about when it comes to race. It's not that bad. I can't say that, right? Because I'm dismissing somebody else's real lived experience, and experience that I've never had. And I think that's the most important thing that you can do is looking at any form of oppression in the book. Don't dismiss somebody else's experience. Don't dismiss their reality. And try to connect to other people's trauma by comparing it to your own trauma and empathizing. Thanks, and I will see you a little bit more during the spring break, and then after break we'll get rolling again.